Hi there, Laura here from Get Organized HQ, and I am excited to talk to you about one of my very favorite things, and that is digital planners. And this is the ultimate guide to digital planning with Goodnotes. So if you don't know what that is, keep watching. I'm going to tell you all about it. And if you do, but you want to go more in depth and you want a great reference to make sure that you are getting the most out of your digital planner and using Goodnotes, this is the place for you. Now, this is part of our Ultimate Guide series, so make sure you check the links down below to see some of our other Ultimate Guides. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive in. Before we talk about how to use a digital planner in Goodnotes, we need to take just a second and make sure we are all on the same page when it comes to what this actually is. So, pretty obviously, it is not your traditional paper planner like this one. Now, if you love traditional paper planners like this one, I have a link down below to this one. I love those too, but keep watching even if you think this is what you want, because I'm gonna show you what the alternative is. Secondly, it is not a planner that you download as like a PDF and print it out yourself. These digital planners are really not designed to be printed and used in that way. I also have that available, but that isn't what we're talking about. The third thing that we're not talking about, and this is where I think a lot of people tend to get confused, is a digital planner used on your tablet is not an app. It doesn't really sync up with other apps. It doesn't automatically populate from Google Calendar. It's very different actually from an app. The best way to describe it, it is literally like, I took this planner and we actually have, this version of our digital planner. It's literally like I took it and I put it on my iPad. So you're supposed to write on it and use it very, very much the same way that you would use a paper planner. It's basically bringing together the best of both worlds. You're not supposed to use it the same way you might use something like Google Calendar or Apple Calendar or one of those. And as you keep watching, I think it'll become clear, but I just thought we needed to mention that to start with so that we know we are all on the same page. So the first thing you're going to need to do is open your digital planner. Now, I'm going to assume that you've already downloaded it. If you buy a digital planner from us, we do give you instructions on how to get it onto your iPad if you're not sure. And I also want to mention here that I'm demonstrating on an iPad using Goodnotes. You definitely do not have to have a pro level iPad or the latest greatest iPad. Many of them will download Goodnotes, and if they download Goodnotes, they all work exactly the same. Now, you can use these digital planners on an Android or other type of device. I recommend using the app Note Shelf, but we're not talking about that particular app today, even though it works very similarly. This is specifically for Goodnotes on iPad, and I should mention, as of the time of this recording, Goodnotes is only available on iOS, so that means literal iPads, not Androids or other types of tablets. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I'm personally hopeful that someday they might get Goodnotes for other types of devices, but as of this time, that's not really an option. So I have opened Goodnotes and I'm going to go to this planner. I just opened it. I don't have anything written on it. This is our 2022 Get Organized HQ Edition digital planner. I'll put a link down below to our shop. We also have other editions if you like other different styles. This one's really fun and colorful. If you're looking for something a little bit simpler, more black and white, and more professional looking, we have our vanilla edition available. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I have now obviously opened the planner. It's that simple. Now, when I want to go back and look at all of the files that I have, I click this little, I call that an arrow, and we go back and we look at all the different things that I have in here. This one is one that I use a lot. This is my Q4 digital planner. By the time you're watching this, you wouldn't need that. This is Q4 of 2021, but I've used this one quite a bit. So that's how we're gonna go and navigate to our different planners and notebooks. So you can have several different ones in Goodnotes. There's really no limit if you wanna separate out. And even if you wanted one planner for work and one for personal, you could totally do that. Now that you have your planner open, let's talk about how to navigate it. So how to get from page to page in the planner. And this is where these digital planners really shine, especially over a paper planner. So if you look here, it's kind of laid out like a physical planner in that these are tabs, just like you would have in a physical planner. Now, one thing I want to note here, and of every single like button and tool in Goodnotes, I would say this is one of the two most important, and that is this little thing right here. It kind of almost looks like an X. I think it's supposed to be a pencil with like a slash through it. Now, I am currently in I was in writing mode, and now I have gone to read mode. Now, once you're in read mode, you'll see that it switches to a pencil with like a line, kind of like you doodled. So what that's going to do is it's going to switch you from read mode to write mode. So you want to be in read mode when you're navigating. So when I tap that, it's going to take me to May. When I tap this, it's going to take me to October. Now, this happens all the time, and let me tell you, it takes a couple of days to get used to, and it's going to become second nature for you. You're not even going to have to think about it. But when you first start, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be writing in your planner, like, okay, let's say you're planning out something in October. So you're writing like somebody's birthday. I usually don't write this sloppy, but I don't want to take too much time. And I'm also writing like, usually I would have my iPad flat, but for purposes of video, I have it standing up. So I'm writing, and then let's say I'm like, oh, okay, I want to go to February. So I tap that. It's really hard for you to see, but when I did that, I actually put a little mark on February because it's in write mode. It thinks I want to write on the page. So if I really want to navigate there, what I need to do is tap this and go back to read mode. So one of the most important things that you need to remember is going from read to write mode. Now I can navigate as usual. Now you might think, okay, that's great. I can use the tabs just like I could on a physical planner. And like on this planner, we have more tabs than your physical planner would have just because we have that ability. But there's more. Now, if you just want to flip through it like a regular planner, all you do is swipe. So you just take your finger and you're going to go from page to page. This is just like you would in your regular everyday planner. But don't worry, it gets a lot better. So if I literally had to, let's say that I wanted to go to the daily plan for sometime in January. Now, if I literally had to like flip through all this, that would be really annoying, right? But I don't have to do that. I'm gonna go back to January, and I'm gonna show you all the different ways I can navigate. Now, I wanna give you a little heads up here. If you are shopping for digital planners, this is probably one of the #1 things to look out for that you might not realize if you haven't used one before. When I create this digital planner, I put all of this navigation in there. So I'm not going to tell you that any digital planner that you buy out there is going to have this. It may or may not. Ours has a little bit more than some planners that I have seen. So that's one thing that you're going to want to look out for. They have to put this in when they design it. But the first thing that I can do is I can go to this calendar and I can tap on this day, and voila, I went straight to the 14th of January, that daily layout. So that's pretty cool that I can navigate there, but it does not end there, never fear. Let's say that I'm here and like I'm making my daily plan and I'm like, oh, I want to go back to like my, whoops, I did not mean to drop that pencil. So let's say that I want to go back to my weekly view. I just tap week right there and boom, I'm back to my weekly view. Now I'm in my weekly view and I'm planning and I want to go back to like the 14th. Boom. Back. So we can easily navigate around. On ours, this is actually clickable. So this is indicating that it's Thursday, January 13th on this particular page. But if I wanted to just jump right to the 30th, I just tap there, boom, I am there. So that is how amazing the navigation is in these planners where you can easily get back from one to the other. The other thing that makes this unique compared to a paper planner is, obviously, since this is not printed on paper, we don't have a space constraint. So in this particular planner, if you were to get our physical version, this one right here that comes in this box, what you would be getting would be the monthly layout. You still get the goal setting workbook in the beginning. You get the monthly, like your traditional calendar, and you would get these weekly views. You don't get the daily views because that would be an insanely large planner. Like you wouldn't want to carry it around. The only way to do that would be to split it up into like, you would only get a month or 3 months or something at a time. And so with this digital planner, we're able to give you all of that without adding any bulk. And let's say that for whatever reason, you're like, I could care less about planning my days. Like I never want to go to one of these days right here where it is just a day. Like you never want to do that. That's fine. You'll never even know they're there. Or vice versa. If you're a person who's like, I only care about my days, like I don't need to plan out my weeks, you'll never even know it's there. It's not going to take up any extra space for you. So those are the basics of how you would navigate. These are like your basic monthly tabs. Up here, we have a dedicated notes section, and I will explain the index for the notes in a little bit. We have a dedicated meal planning section, so if you want to plan your meals right in the planner, go for it. These are more organized notes sections, and I'm going to cover these in a little bit. And then this is like our goal setting workbook in the beginning if you want to quickly get back to these things. And the year at a glance is one that I use personally all the time. I love having that tab where I just tap there and I can see my year at a glance. And then we have our different things from our goal setting workbook in the beginning. And so that's the basics of how you would navigate. Right here, you can come back to home at any time, which is just going to bring you back to the front of the planner. Now that you know how to navigate through your planner and get to the pages that you'd like to go to, let's talk about writing in your planner. That is an essential piece of any physical or digital planner. So to write, you're going to need a pencil that is designed for writing on your tablet. The one that I'm using today is the Apple Pencil. I will link to a video where we review an alternative that's way cheaper. So if you happen to have an iPad, but you do not have a pencil yet, you don't have to spend, I think these are like close around $100. You can get one for $30 that is plenty adequate for writing in your planner. So once you have that, and the next thing you want to do, so I'm going to write my name here in this title page. You're going to want to make sure that you are in the proper mode. So if I tap this pencil and I start to write and nothing happens, I know I'm in read mode. When something happens, I know I'm in write mode. So I'm going to tap the eraser and kind of erase that. All right, so it's not too hard on this page, but on other pages, it's kind of hard to write this small. I don't know if you've noticed that. So one thing that is critical, and this is something that's again going to become second nature, and you've seen me do it already throughout the video, and I wasn't even thinking about it. You're going to do the pinch and zoom. So you can make it as big or as small as you want. And this will help you write much easier. So the motion is just when I want to make it smaller, I'm placing my thumb and my index finger. And I would probably do this with my dominant hand. So you'll probably do that naturally anyway. I'm right-handed. And I'm just applying a little light pressure and I'm kind of doing a pinching in motion. That's taking it back to its original size. You can't really go smaller than the original size. And then when I want to make it bigger, I start with my thumb and my forefinger close together and then I push out, but I'm keeping light pressure. And that is zooming in for me. Then I'm going to go ahead and erase this. So I'm just tapping that eraser and I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to be able to write my name much more neatly. And again, if you I would use this flat on a table. It's gonna really feel a lot like writing on just regular paper. So I'm going to write my name there. I'll take you to a couple more pages and kind of show you the basics of how we write, and we'll go a little bit more in depth on these writing tools in just a little bit. So when I navigate, again, I'm going to make sure that I go to the proper mode, and let's say I want to go to May, and let's say that I want to go to this week 20, and I would like to, a side note, you can navigate through these weeks as well. Those are hyperlinked. Whoops, I went right to a day. I did not mean to do that. All right, so like I find it really hard to write in these narrow columns unless I make them bigger. And if ever your menu bar at the top disappears, there's this little bitty light gray with a down arrow. Tap that and your menu bar will reappear. All right, so I'm gonna write, let's say that I have a 2 p.m. dentist appointment. I'll write that. In this style of planner, we give you these light like writing lines, which I love having a line, whether it's physical or digital, so that my writing can stay on the same line. So those are the basics of how you would write in your planner. So if all you watch of this video is up to this point, you're already gonna know the basics and 80 to 90+% of what you wanna do in your planner. You're kind of good to go. But there's way more you can do. And so I'm gonna go ahead and dive more in depth on some of the other things that you are able to do with Goodnotes. So first of all, we're just gonna start here and I'm gonna take you through the tools. So we've talked about the pin tool here. And again, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're not in read mode. And I showed you how you can just simply write. But I wanna show you some other things you can do with the pin tool. So you'll notice, like if I click eraser, there's a tiny, very faint line right here. So what that's saying is all of these tools remain the same, and then whatever tool you've clicked on, its options appear here. So let's go back to the pencil and you'll see how that changed. So the first thing that you can do is you can change the color that you are writing with. So these are my pre-populated colors. But if I tap this, so let's say I think these two pinks are really close to each other and I don't want both of those. I'm gonna just click it and then tap it again. And it's gonna bring up these options. Now these are my predefined options and I have preloaded my brand colors in here. And side note, they're also the colors of this planner. So I could just tap that, say if I wanted the aqua, and I could move to that color and you'll see how it exactly matches this. But you can also, you're not limited to those colors. You can also choose yourself one of these. You can, whoops, I just tapped it with my hand. You can choose a custom color here. So if you knew the hex code of your color or something, you could put it in there. You can restore the original color set if that's something you want to do. So those are your options for changing out the color of your pen. And you're just able to save 3 presets. So if you want to quickly switch between those, you can do that. Now here, these are adjusting the thickness of the line. So I was on the thin line, but I could go to the medium line. You'll see how that's a little thicker, or the really thick line, and that's really thick. Now, this Apple Pencil is somewhat pressure sensitive. Some of the other pencils are not. When using Goodnotes, it's not really something designed for like calligraphy. There are other apps for that. So it will be sensitive to, it's more like writing with a normal pen. It's not like writing with a calligraphy pen for the most part. It'll be sensitive to pressure, but in a normal manner, not in like a calligraphy manner. The other thing to note is, let's say I'm like, okay, I want something thicker than the medium, but not as thick as this. If this is already selected and I tap it, I can edit what that thickness is, and it's telling me that now this is gonna be a little bit thinner. So you can edit your preset thin, medium, and thick settings as well. So that is your pen tool. Next, we're gonna tap on the eraser, and we're gonna talk about the eraser tool. So basically, the eraser is one of the simplest tools there is. There are just 3 sizes of eraser. So when I'm on that small size, it's just erasing a little bit. When I go back to this, it's gonna erase even more. And if I go back to the biggest size, it will erase even more. So it's just the size of the eraser. Now I wanna point out here, and it should probably have gotten its own little section in this video. This is probably up there with the top 3 most important buttons. This guy right here. That is the undo button. So if you were to accidentally erase something, that's all you have to do. And what if I'm like, oh wait, no, I didn't wanna undo that? This is the redo button. Sometimes I think we need those buttons for life, but at least when using Goodnotes, unlike with a physical planner, you have an undo and a redo button. So those are your friends. I use those a lot. I also want to point out, and I think these are settings that you can adjust. You'll notice, like as I write on this, and then I go to the eraser and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna erase something. It's going to flip back to the pencil for me, and that's because it thinks that's what I want, and most of the time that is, like you erase something and then you want your pencil back. It doesn't do that with the other tools where it takes itself back. All right, this is the next tool that I love, and this is the highlighter. So it does just what it says. You can highlight. In addition to regular highlighting, you can change the highlight colors here. So I could be, these are my preset colors. Also, if you drop down, just like with the other things, you can change the color of highlight. I also have a special mode, and this is one of my favorites. You can toggle this on and off of highlighting in a straight line. So, especially if my highlighter were thinner, and again, you can adjust the thickness of the highlighter just like you can the other things, it would possibly look kind of squiggly like that. But if I enable the draw in a straight line, that's one of my favorite features of the highlighter. it's going to kind of straighten that line for me. And I just think that that is super, super cool. Now I need to show you one other thing. So now when I go to this eraser, I'm going to tap down. Okay. So earlier I was using the default erasing options, but this is a very, very cool option. I can erase highlighter only. So let's say I decided actually, like maybe I was highlighting things as I completed them and I accidentally highlighted something I hadn't done. All I need to do is do this, and all it's going to erase is the highlighter and not the actual writing underneath the highlighter. So that is something that I use sometimes, and then I'm just going to toggle this off because I really do want it in general to erase everything. So you have those two different options. This option right here is for drawing basic shapes. I've ended up using this a little bit more than I thought I would. So like if say you wanted to add yourself a checkbox, now you could do it with a pencil, but it's gonna, like if I did this with a pencil, I could draw this shape and it's gonna look a little sloppy. If I do it with this, I kind of want the medium line. It automatically makes it neater for me. It's kind of fun. So you'll see how it kind of makes them neater. If you connect it all the way, it's set to fill it in. You can draw a circle. So those are some of the basics. There are some other different settings you can play with. If you undo fill color, that means that it's not automatically going to fill it in like it did on this one. You can see it filled it in. On this one it doesn't. It fills it in with a slightly lighter color. So you can toggle that on and off with your shapes. You can obviously change the thickness or the color just like you could with your highlighter and your pencil tool. Okay, Lasso Tool, my friends. Let me show you how cool the Lasso Tool is. This thing is incredible. So I'm just gonna pretend like I'm gonna go to a daily page actually. I'm gonna show you kind of how I might, I often actually do use this. So I'm gonna go to like this day. Okay, so let's say, if you follow our 3-bucket system, your wish list is kind of like your general to-do list for the day of like things that you would like to get done. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fill this out a little bit. Okay, so let's get started and talk about what all this incredible lasso tool can do. All right, I'm gonna click it. Now, I'm gonna lasso something. Now, the first thing to understand about the lasso tool is, okay, let me see if I can find a good example here. Actually, I need to write something else to give this a slightly better example. Okay. Let's talk about what the lasso tool can do. So I'm going to tap that lasso tool, and the first thing to understand is how it selects things. All right, so if you see here, this is something that really happens in real life. Let's say that I really only want to select find new car here, as opposed to go to Walmart. What you're going to do is circle it, and anything that it's touching, it will include. So what that means is you'll see how I didn't go up above that F to grab part of that G. And if I just move it, it's actually just moving the find new car. So any line that lasso will touch will be included inside the lasso basically. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and it makes it really easy to, like, you don't have to actually make a circle all the way around the thing. If you just touch all the lines that you want to include, those will be included. So you just saw me do the first thing that you can do, which is like just move things. So for example, if I wanted to move this find new car, like I didn't do that, and so I want to move it to the next day, that's what I do. And I do that all the time. So I'm literally just like kind of moving things. But there's a lot more you can do with this. Okay, so I'm gonna like lasso all of this. And I really don't usually like writing in that aqua because it is too faint in my opinion. So I've got it lassoed, you know, like I took my pencil off, and then I'm gonna tap and hold for just a second, and you'll see all of these things come up. So I could cut it, like that's like cutting and pasting, copy, delete, resize, color, take screenshot, add element, or convert. So we're gonna talk about color for just a second. So I'm gonna make these a much darker, let's just make them black. Perfect, okay. Now let's talk about what else we can do with them. Let's tap again. All right, so I could cut them. Whoops, I gotta lasso again because I lost it. Okay, tap, hold. All right, I'm gonna cut. So that takes them away. And let's say that I actually want to move them all. Like I had a horrible day, I got nothing done, maybe I got sick or something. So I'm going to go ahead over here, I'm going to tap and hold, and that'll bring up the paste. And then I do need to move it into place. Just like that. You'll also see something else that you can do. So I'm going to go back to this lasso. It's still on the lasso. And you'll see that it's lassoing only what I wrote. It's not getting any of the actual document, like any of the things that were already here, which is good. Okay, so click and hold. And then I could copy it, which means it's just like a copy and paste on your computer. You hold, tap, and I could literally duplicate it. Now, I would never really want to, I don't think I would want to do that, but there are options when you just want to copy something and have it somewhere else as well. Okay, you could delete it, which literally just delete the whole thing. You could resize it, which, you know, I wouldn't do it for this, but there are applications where that actually makes a lot of sense as a thing to do. Tap, hold. Okay, we already talked about coloring. You can take a screenshot of it. So literally you could do anything with this. I can send it to my friends. I can airdrop it to another computer. I can print it. I mean, all those things with just that little area that I screenshotted. I can convert it. Well, let's talk about that. It turned it into text. And it does a remarkable job. I mean, I'm not the neatest handwriter. I do try to be a little careful if I know I'm going to convert it to text. But this was really hard for me to write because I was like at a weird angle. And it is still doing, like, it turned it almost perfectly into text. And then this is copyable text. Like, I could copy it. I could send it to someone. I could put it in my notes app. So anything that I write, like sometimes I even outline videos like this, like by writing in my notes app or in the notes section of this planner, which we'll get to. And then I am able to then just like lasso the whole thing, turn it into text, and put it in like a Google document or somewhere where my whole team can access it. So that's super fun. So I think we've covered most of what the Lasso tool will do. Another frequently used feature for me is this undo button. So let me show you what that does. So let's say I'm erasing and I'm like, okay, erase that. And I'm like, oops, I didn't want to erase that. You can simply tap undo. And if I change my mind and I was like, oh, I really did want to do that, I tap redo. So that's another one that I use very frequently. Now, I'm just going to show you here how to use stickers that you already have. Our Get Organized HQ digital planner does come with a sample pack of stickers, and we have additional packs that you can buy. And I'm just going to show you how to use them if you already have them in there. There is a separate video about how to get your stickers into Goodnotes. If you're interested in how to do that, it's very simple. But these are your stickers, basically. They're called elements in Goodnotes. So really you could turn anything into an element. Like if there's something you wrote all the time, that could become an element. But I'm just going to tap this. All right, it's going to bring up all of my recent stickers. But what I want to point out is, okay, down here at the bottom, this is how you navigate through your stickers. So this little, it looks like a clock, means these are the things I've used recently. Then I have them coordinated into sets. So this is our decorative set, and I put like a little decorative thing on it. So these are our decorative stickers. And then these are our sample pack stickers here. And then Goodnotes actually gives you a few, like these sticky notes come with everything. I think these come with everything. And these come with everything. So I think I could have, well, maybe I added those. But there are a few that come with everything. Okay, so let's say that you want to, today is actually a rainy day as I film this, so I'm going to tap that. Okay, so that sticker is like really big. I wouldn't want to use a sticker that big. So what you do is, you just move it around. You can use your pencil or your finger, and then this little thing resizes it. So I can resize it, and not only that, but I can like turn it. So if I want it to kind of go like that. And ours have a transparent background. You wanna make sure that they have a transparent background. And there you go. So it just blends in with the page. And a lot of times I would use these in the week view especially. So I would go back here and I would maybe go to a week, and then I would add one in here. Like if it's my birthday, and again, you always do have to resize these. So like, let's say I just want to put this here. Now you could make it like span 2 if you're like really into birthdays. You just want it to be pretty, or you could shrink it down to fit in one of the columns. So I just think it's really fun, and it just adds a little something to your planner. And the sky is the limit with how many of these you could use. We have both functional and decorative. Oh, this is one of my favorites, messy bun, getting stuff done kind of day. So we just do that. Place it right there, wherever you want it. We also have more functional ones like these hearts, these checklists. So if you don't want it to say hop, you can just take that checklist and put it in there to cover the hop, which that's our method for our 3 bucket system. Oh, well, I guess I should let you see that. Just size it properly. And there you go. You've turned that into a checklist. Next, we have this little thing that looks like an image, and that means you can actually add images. So let me find an image. I don't know. These are kind of not the most exciting, but let's say like I kind of wanted to keep memories. I can take any image off my phone. Now I usually would resize it like that. And like I could keep memories in there. So like if you kind of wanted it like a scrapbook, or you just wanted to remember things, you can put any picture that you have. Whoops, I wanted to resize that. Oh, I actually duplicated it in there. So that's what you can do with pictures. Now this text is really, really cool. Next, we have this text tool, and it allows you to use your keyboard to type in. And when I say keyboard, you can bring up the keyboard on the iPad. So like it's typed letters instead of like writing. Or if you had an external keyboard, you could use that. And you can also use Goodnotes on your phone or your Mac computer, which I do. So when I click that, and then here's where I'm going to set up, like you could change your font or font size, whether it's centered. Like if I want it centered, I can do that. And then I'm going to just double tap where I want it to go. And then I'll be able to just type in. So if I want to say doctor appointment, I can do that. And then I can, I've typed it in. So if you really want to type in on your planner rather than writing, that's how you do that. You can still move it around with the Lasso tool. So if I'm like, oh, I don't like it there, I want to kind of move it over, I can totally do that. You could also resize it with your Lasso tool. So if you want it to be bigger, things like that. There's it does all of the same things that the regular writing does. And this is a feature that, to be honest, I never use. So if you want to play around, be my guest. So we've covered all of the basics plus all the intermediate ways to use your digital planner, but this would not be the ultimate guide if I didn't touch on some of the more advanced features. Now, if you don't get to these features, if you don't use them, that is totally fine. Many people go about their happy digital planning lives without ever using these. But if you're like me and you want the complete guide and you want to dive even further, then keep on watching because some of these things are pretty exciting. Let's talk about splitting your screen. So in order to do this, I'm going to go to where I now have this view where I see all of my documents. And this is something I usually do if I want to see 2 pages of my planner at once, but they are not side by side. So if I want to, for example, be looking at my overall calendar view when I'm planning my day, or be looking at my weekly view when I'm planning my day. So here's how you're going to do that. So you're going to go to the title of one of the items that you want on one side of your screen, and this is called splitting your screen, and click this little down guy. And I'm going to say open in new window. Voila. Now I have a second window for Goodnotes, and I can open up, let's say I want this one, or it can be the same one again. You can open the same planner twice, if that makes any sense, because you want to refer to a different page in it. I do that all the time. But let's say I want to refer to like these notes, and somehow I want to transfer part of it over here. I could do that. And let's say that I wanted, like, I knew I was going to use this on, like, this was an outline for a podcast, I think. So let's say that I want to use this on this day. So again, I got to make sure that I'm in the proper mode, and then I could go here and, maybe I want to put it down in my notes section here. I probably would actually, if I was actually doing that, I would lasso it and I would copy it. So this is what I would do if I were to actually do that. Hold, copy. But I like to show you like actual things that you would do. So sometimes I think if you just look at like, oh, these are the features, you might think that's cool, but it would be hard. It's harder to see how you would actually use it, like how it becomes useful. So I'm resizing that and fitting it down in there. So that's just one example. I want to also point out, like you can pinch and zoom separately on each side. So like they each are their own thing. Like what you do over here is not affecting what you're doing on this side of the screen. And also you can take this and move it. So like, let's say that this is most of what you want to do and you're just referring to like a tiny section of this, you can totally do that. So that is splitting your screen. All right, now let's talk about favorites and page navigation. So we've talked a lot about the navigation where you go through like this, where you use the hyperlinks, but there are other ways to navigate. So let's say for whatever reason, this is your favorite week of the year, or it is actually this week, February 21st through the 27th. If you tap that, it becomes a bookmark. And let's say that you have something over here in your notes, which I'm going to cover in a minute, that you really like. I'm going to write awesome notes that I want to refer back to. Okay. And then let's say like this is just one for whatever reason, like maybe this is your list of go-to recipes. Whoops. And you find yourself referring to that all the time. Now, when I tap this guy, this brings up a view of all of the pages in this document. So it's actually a good way to quickly navigate. And I'm going to show you some other cool things that you can do from this particular window in a minute, but this is what I would consider the more basics. So again, you could navigate to any page just by tapping on it. But what's cool about those bookmarks is if I tap favorites, now only the ones I've favorited, it has a little bookmark thing show up there. So if you want like a short list of go-to pages, put them there. So those are the basic ways to use that. And then we're going to cover even more advanced ways. Before we dive into some even more advanced things that you can do with your digital planner, let's talk a little bit about how I have this Get Organized HQ version of the digital planner laid out for you beyond just the basics where we have our notes, okay? So up here, we gave you a lot of space to put notes. So if you want kind of like your all-in-one, this is the place for it. Now, when I click here, and I'm going to navigate now, actually I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the navigation way. Okay, when I click here, this is the index for tab 1 of my notes. So I like to make this go topically. So this, for example, might be like anything like health related, for example. Like I want health related notes here. So I'm going to write health, and then it gets really cool. So as I'm taking notes, like maybe I read a book about health here. And so I'm going to put, I'm going to number my page. This is page 1. This is page 2. And I'll tell you why we didn't number these for you in a minute. And then like this is health podcast 1. Like I listened to a podcast and I took awesome notes. Okay. And then there's a bunch of notes. Okay. And then I'm actually going to change this color so you can see that better. Oh, I didn't grab awesome in that, did I? All right, and then this is going to be page 3 and 4, and this is health book notes. So let's say like I read some awesome book about health, and I have a whole bunch of notes about it. So, all right, so then what I'm going to do is in this index, I'm going to write, like these are notes from podcast 1. These are notes from book 1. I would put the book title in here. This is just an example. And then what I can do is navigate quickly. So I know that 1, whoops, forgot to do the navigation. I know that 1 is health. And so then this is an index of all the things that are in my health section. So I can just navigate quickly. And so we give you several sections. So this is to increase flexibility. I know these look exactly the same, but they are not. So this could be, for example, home, like if you're planning a home reno. This could be business. I will also point out for the way that we did it is on 1, we give you lined paper. On 2, we gave you graph paper. On 3, we gave you dot grid paper. On 4, we gave you like to-do list. On 5, you have completely blank paper. And 6 is all just blank paper. So you can navigate straight toward that. If you want to put an index of your stickers here, you can. Make it a scrapbook, whatever you want. Now let's talk about how you can actually like duplicate, copy, move, and add, or even delete pages from your digital planner. So you're gonna tap these 4 squares and it's going to take you to the overall view of all of the pages in your planner. Now I'm just going to start showing you some practical ways that you can use these features and some things that like you might actually want to do. And then I'm going to give you some caveats and things to watch out for of ways that things may not work how you expect. Okay, so this is our planner that we have been using. And one of the most common things that I personally have found myself doing, so we talked about these notes pages here. So I'm gonna go here to this first section of notes pages. And in this section of notes pages, you might run out. There's only 20 pages. So let's say that you get to page 19 and 20. So I'm gonna go switch to navigation. I'm gonna go to page 19. This will be, whoops, I gotta go to the writing mode. So this will be 19, this will be 20, and I've got like all these awesome notes on here. And I wanna add more, super simple. I'm just gonna click that. And I should note, wherever you click it, it brings you up to that particular page. So you can see here, it's a little hard to see, but this is where the page that I just wrote on. And actually not this one, yeah. This is the page I just wrote on. And if I want another page, all I need to do is tap that and say duplicate. And it just added another page. Now it's kept exactly like the doodles that I had on there stayed on there. So you could duplicate it before you have the doodles, or you could just go and erase all those doodles and then you would have another page of notes. Now, one thing to note, if you're gonna make more pages of notes, is that you really cannot add anything else to this index. Now, one of the reasons we did not number the pages, so let's say podcast 1 was like totally the best podcast you've ever listened to in your entire life and you have so many notes. So this is like 1, 2, and you don't actually wanna move on to the next page. Like it's that good. So what you're gonna do is you can just go here and click, whoops, I didn't mean to click that. Sometimes that happens. You can just go here and duplicate it. And it's going to add you another page that looks, so when I flip from here, then we're gonna go to this one and then it looks exactly the same. So again, I would want to erase all this to keep talking about it. And in this case, what I want to point out, so we've kept the page numbers there, 1 and 2. So I would either call this like, so this is still kind of part of 1 and 2. So this is going to be like 1A, 2A, then more notes about awesome podcast. Okay, so what's going to happen here is when I tap here on the 1, it's going to take me to the first one. Okay, so you can't add another navigation. And then when I tap on 2, it's going to take me, or actually 3, it's going to take me here. So let me show you that again. So when I tap on 3, it's going to take me here. Now that's actually good, because what that means is you can keep duplicating and everything's still going to work, if that makes any kind of sense. And even on the page that you duplicated, all of these tabs and everything still works completely fine. I'm going to show you a couple places that you need to watch out, but in the notes, have at it. Here's another thing that is actually something you might want to do. So let's say I'm here and in this section, I really want a graph paper right here in this section. So I'm going to go here. And okay, this next one is graph paper. So I really want to get some graph paper over here. I'm not going to move this page because A, that would take it away from this section, and you can move pages. And it wouldn't, like, it would be really strange in my opinion. Although you can do whatever you want. It would be really strange if when I was in here and I tapped the 1, if it actually went back, like we're here in section 2, if it actually went back to section 1, I think that would be just strange. So what I'm gonna do is tap that little down arrow, and then we are gonna duplicate, whoops, why do I keep tapping my hand on it? We're gonna duplicate the page. Okay, so that's 357. Now I'm gonna take page 357 and we want to actually move this page. So I'm just gonna scooch it and it goes right there. And what I wanna show you, okay, so this is actually section 2, page 1, section 2, page 2. Okay. So when we go back here to part 2 and we tap on 1, it's taking us to the proper place. It's not taking us back here to this page. So that's another useful thing you can do. Some other things that you may want to do, you may want to, for example, add a notes page after your, like maybe you want more notes pages with each month. So you may go here. Then I would duplicate it. And then we're just going to drag it. It's going to be a little bit of effort to drag the page all the way up, but you can do it. So you see how it's just kind of, all right, so let's say that I want to get it like at the very end, maybe after the reflections. So now I have another notes page. And then once I get it in there, if I want multiples, I'm just going to duplicate it. So that's how you would do that. And then you see here, like we're here in November, you know, we've got our daily plans, we go to reflection, and then we have notes pages right where we want them to be. So those are some more ways, you know, and you can just think of all different ways that you could duplicate it. Now, let me tell you what you need to watch out for. All right. What you cannot do here in Goodnotes is add new hyperlinks. So all of these things are linked up to where whenever I click this tab, it goes to March, for example. You're not going to be able to add new tabs. So, for example, if I wanted, and I have done this actually, this is something I've done a lot, is I duplicate the month. So I actually want, and you can do this here from here as well. So you'll see, actually that copied the entire page. So I'd have to go here, tap that, duplicate it. And so now I have two versions. And for me, this was like, the first one was my general calendar. And this is what I would call my health calendar. So I wanted to make all sorts of health, like kind of keep track of all sorts of health, like symptoms, like when I started taking a certain medication or supplement and when I stopped and side effects and kind of all of that stuff. Because when I would like need to refer back and be like, oh, I was having bad health symptoms there. And I wanted to be able to look back and be like, oh, actually, I started on that new medicine a week ago. So maybe those are linked, that kind of thing. That's why I was tracking my health. So I just duplicated it and I had a second health. Or a second calendar. But what I want to say is that now whenever I'm anywhere in this planner and I click the March tab, it's always going to take me to that first March calendar. It's never going to take me to the new one that I created. So every hyperlink on here still works. It's just like nothing new can go to that one. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, don't worry about it. Do what you need to do and it'll still work. But I just want you to think through the fact that you can't really link anything new to that calendar. And in most cases, it's fine. I don't need something going to that calendar. I just need something that I can go to this calendar and then swipe over if I want that calendar. Now, I've already showed you this home, how it takes you to the very beginning. This will take you to your index. So like this takes you to home. This little I takes you to the index, and that's an index for these. So at a glance, if you categorize these, it's right on it. So this was personal. And I like to write just so I know that this is lined, this is graph. And then I can go there at a glance and I can see, okay, this is personal. So I'm going to go to section 1, which is personal. So that's kind of how I like to organize those. And we've moved on to the Q4 planner, but that's fine. They're very, very similar in how they work. A couple additional things about this navigation is you may wonder, what does add page before mean? Well, what you're able to do is add from a pre-selected list of pages that Goodnotes has built in. In a planner like this, that doesn't make a lot of sense because there's no hyperlinks, there's no anything. So if you're using one of their notebooks, which is just like a blank notebook, that would make some more sense. But I just wanted to point out that you could do that. And then you can also move it to trash. And you could add the page right after. You could export it, open it in a new window. Again, that's where we showed the split screen, which is something that I do somewhat frequently. I've already pointed out what favorites are. Outline is not something that I use very often, but I think in cases if you were taking like a detailed notes of something, that could make a lot of sense for you. I also want to point out, let me see, right here, everything is searchable. This is magic. Even my handwriting. So if I search for Target, look there, page 56, it said go to Target. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think that is a pretty cool feature. I can search absolutely everything in my document and figure out everything about that. So like, for example, let's say that I made podcast notes down here in this notes section. And I can't remember. I'm like, yeah, last month I had a couple ideas for the podcast and I sketched out a couple notes and I can't remember. I can just search. So that is a pretty magical function that I think a lot of people don't know about. One feature that I'm calling advanced, however, it's not at all advanced in terms of how to use it. I just think it's one of those that most people don't know about and people don't take enough advantage of. You can actually put Goodnotes on your iPad, of course, but you can also put it on your iPhone and any Mac computers like iMacs and MacBooks. And here's what this does. So you put it on there and you can set them up very easily to automatically sync up. So when I write here on this in my iPad, and where this actually comes into play is, let's say that you use this meal plan section. So you've made a meal plan and a grocery list, for example. And so you need like grapes. And I would probably put like the week on here. And then you are at the store and you don't have your iPad with you. You can just pull out your phone and see what you wrote in there. And it is fully functional everywhere. So it's not like a simplified version for your phone and for your MacBook. You can do all the things on all the devices. What I would say, because some people ask this, like, why can't I just use my phone? Or especially those who don't have an iPad, they want to know if they could use their iPhone. The answer is yes, you absolutely could. The only thing you're not going to be able to do is use a pencil, like an iPhone or a MacBook or an iMac does not accept a pencil. So you can still do it using your finger. That's very difficult. Like I would not recommend writing with your finger. So you're not going to really be able to write in it with a pencil. So you could write with your finger, or you could literally bring up the keyboard and type. I would find it very cumbersome personally. It's such a small screen. If that was all I had, I wouldn't enjoy it. I have seen a couple. I wish I remembered where at least one planner that was designed for Goodnotes on the iPhone. But again, I just think it would be too small to really be a great experience, but it's fantastic for like being able to quick reference things. Or if you didn't keep like a digital calendar at all, like this was your only planner and only source of information, you could very easily just take out your phone to see, like if you're somewhere and you want to schedule something, you could take a look at your schedule right then and there. And it's very easy to navigate, like all the navigation still works. And I don't use it quite as much on my iMac or MacBook, but every now and again, I'm just doing something there and I want to pull it up. Or a lot of times maybe I took some like handwritten notes of like a blog post idea and I'm there at my computer ready to write it. I will just bring up Goodnotes there on the computer and navigate to that. And I can either like copy and convert it to text, or I can just kind of reference it when I'm doing that. So make sure that you know you can get it on any Apple devices and they'll all sync up magically. And if for some reason you have multiple iPads like I do, they'll also sync up magically, which I think is amazing. So this next thing is related to arranging pages and kind of making your own planner. And I would call this pretty advanced, and it may seem a little strange, but I think there could be some applications for it. So let's say this is the 2021 version of our plain vanilla edition. We have this in our shop right now in 2022, so you can see how it's still got the color on the tabs, but nowhere else. So like the rest of it is much more neutral and like more minimalist. Anyway, let's say that I really like this gratitude and notes, but I don't really want to use this whole planner. I actually want to use the other edition of planner. What I can do is basically move this page over. Now I'm gonna point out what isn't fantastic about it, but you literally can do it. So I'm copying the page, then I'm going to the planner that I want to put it in, and then I'm gonna navigate to where I want to put it, which is August. Okay, and then I'm gonna go up here to where I can see all the pages. And let's see here. I'm in, well, let's just say I want to put it here, for example. And then I can add page after, and it's going to ask me what I want, and I just want to paste it. So there we have it. So here it is. Like I'm going to go from these notes to the page out of the other planner. Now let me show you what doesn't make a ton of sense about that. Like these hyperlinks aren't really going to do anything. Like they're just going to they're absolutely going to do nothing when you put it in here. So if that was something that you wanted to do, it would more be like you would have a page that doesn't have navigation on it that you could just kind of add in there. Would be an option, but I just wanted to point out that if that's something that you want to do, you can totally do that. Now, I mentioned before that these planners aren't really designed for you to like print out the whole thing and like put it in a 3-ring binder and use it like that. However, you totally can print from them very easily, and that's something I do on occasion. So for example, let's say I'm here on a monthly layout. This was just an example planner from 2021, and I want to be able to like print this out and hang it up so the rest of the people can see it, or I want to give it to someone so they can see my schedule or something like that, then you can totally do that. It's super easy. So all you do is you go to the page that you want to print, you click this little thing up here, and this is where you can either export it as like a PDF or you can just click print. And once you click print, it should open up your print dialog box and you can print just like you can print anywhere else. So that's something that I think is super useful if there's just like a page or a week, or if maybe you want to write in your day and then work from the printed version, you can totally do that. Now, I know you would love watching our other Ultimate Guides if you like this, so go ahead and click that video if you want to check out the next one. And of course, if you want to get the planner that I showed here today for yourself, go ahead and click the link down below and get that for yourself. And meanwhile, let me know in the comments if you have tried digital planners and what your thoughts are.